What is up, you all? I'm your host, Brandon, and today we are explaining the ending and everything we've seen in Stranger Things Season 5's finale. Before we get into it, definitely smash the like button because it definitely helps, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. So, with this episode being right side up, I absolutely loved it. Once again, I got to enjoy this in the theaters. Such a great experience. But a lot happened in this finale, starting with Henry Creel and the Mind Flayer. So we find out basically that the theories that we had were true, being that Henry Creel, he is a victim basically of the Mind Flayer. We find out that the Mind Flayer was created through things that he was obsessed with, being a spider. That's why the Mind Flayer has a spider-like shape to it. And when it comes down to Henry Creel being a victim, we seen at that point when the guy has a suitcase, when Henry Creel is beating a guy with the rock, he opens up the suitcase and he sees a piece of Dimension X in the particles, and they end up getting inside of Henry Creel and basically giving him these powers, which makes him Vecna. And now we know how everything kicked up with the subjects and Papa's plan, because once that happened to Henry Creel and them injecting his blood into the subjects, we find out how everything ended up branching off into 11, Kali, and everything like that. So when this situation happens and we find out, we see Will actually in Henry Creel's conscious telling him that we're the same. We're basically the same type of person, and you can help us beat this. And they're trying to basically give him a second chance after they find out his story. But Henry Creel basically is like, nope, it already has took over me and consumed me, and it actually is something that I want to do. I had the chance to walk away, but I wanted to be Vecna because he felt that the world, you know, was a bad place and things like that. And that falls into his plan where he wanted to merge all the worlds, being Dimension X and the Upside Down and Hawkins. So he ends up getting took out by basically Joyce, if you want to really get down to it, with the iconic axe where she takes his head off his shoulder because she says he fucked with the wrong family. We even get a moment where 11 and him are going heads up, just like they did in the Rainbow Room inside the Mind Flayer. So I really love that scene where we see 11 stand up for her friends and go up against the Mind Flayer. I did not know what in the hell was going to happen in that scene, because the Mind Flayer was definitely giving Godzilla, like Robin said. But moving on, we see a lot go on with this. We see that right there, because it's like, why would you do that? But then eventually, after hearing what Hopper says to 11, she ends up having a change of heart. But I think it was too late, because we find out later in this episode that Kali ends up dying from the military and everything, and 11 was upset about that. Pushing forward, it was a lot going on. We seen that, you know, Holly ends up getting through to the kids, because when we had this plan against Henry Creel and to figure everything out and to take him and Vecna out in one, whatever you want to call it, we see Max, 11, and Kali end up being in 11's conscious, where they're able to somehow, some way end up connecting to Henry Creel's conscious with Max Mayfield, because she's like the GPS to his memories and everything. So once they get into the Creel house, we see that Kali uses her powers to make an hallucination where they're hiding behind this veil, the group of kids and Kali, where they're showing the kids that Mr. What's It is actually a bad guy. He's not a good guy. He's the black spot. He is Vecna, and they see it firsthand. And then we also see at a point where Kali is, that part was kind of confusing low key, when Kali tries to stab him or whatever, but he ends up disappearing. I want to say that Vecna did that just intentionally. I don't think Kali, she was trying to sabotage that part. I think that actually was something that just got slipped from underneath her, if that makes sense. But moving forward, we get this scene where basically, when it kicks up, we see them at the top of this radio tower performing a final crawl, where they're seeing Dimension X in the abyss crush down on the Upside Down. And we see, once it crushes the radio tower, the top, Steve, Harrington falls off. I thought Steve was a goner. So that's basically what the Duffers was trying to tease, that he was going to almost get took out on the Jimmy Fallon show with the Funkos falling off the desk. So, but I thought he got took out, but Jonathan ends up saving him. And then at a point, we see later that they end up having a heart-to-heart and putting everything to the side with Nancy. Speaking of Nancy, I love that like Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton vibe she had with the gun against the mind flare. Just that badass moment. Like, I really love Nancy's character. And that situation also with Hopper and 11 having a heart-to-heart, and he's telling her basically, we have to get this done, just one last fight, don't be afraid and everything. And she tells him that she's willing to put it all on the line, and Hopper now knows her and Collie's plan to self-destruct, so he tells her about it, and 11 basically ignores his questioning about them self-destructing. And she's basically telling him, at the end of the day, I know you play my father figure, but I'm an adult now. I can make my own decisions. You have to let me go and believe in me. And she ends up making this decision to go up to Dimension X and fight Vecna, right? And then eventually, after all this happens, with, you know, Vecna getting took out by Joyce, like, once again, that was a satisfying scene, seeing him get took out by the axe and just seeing the look on the characters' faces and everything. But we see them end up having this great moment where they're riding out from the upside down, because now Vecna's defeated. The mind flare was defeated by everybody in the group. I love seeing that also. It definitely felt good seeing them have their own little weapons, and Mike having a flare gun. We got Lucas with the little slingshot, and we have Dustin and Steve at a point with a satisfying moment. They say, this is for Eddie, and they start like plucking the stomach of the mind flare with the spears that him and Eddie used. I really did love that, man. We had a lot going on. We see Joyce ends up getting proposed to by Hopper at Enzo, so that was a very full circle moment. But the tearjerker, man, once they're in the Bradley's chucking it and they drive out the gate, the military pulls down on the Bradley's truck and everybody comes out but 11. But that's because 11 actually already has snuck out the truck to go back to the upside down on the other side of the walkway, the upside down, and she's sacrificing herself for her friends. Because what Collie said it will be an ongoing cycle if we're both still up and running, because they're going to try to track us down and get blood samples from us and keep on doing the rinse and repeat method like Papa. So 11 figured, if I take myself out, this will end it all. So allegedly, she takes herself out, the gate closes, and it turns back into this cemented wall in just a regular library versus a gate. I cried my heart out, man. I love 11. It just was such one of them. It just hurted me. It broke my heart seeing Mike scream like that, Hopper, and she did it in front of her friends, and she just went up in the wind. And then we see the kids end up graduating and everything. Dustin gets that Eddie Munson moment where he's talking to the principal and just speaking his mind, and we see that Mike is going through a lot after losing 11, but he feels in his heart that 11 is still out there, and we're going to get a little deeper into that. But I loved how Hopper actually now is able to speak wisdom into Mike and tell him from his previous situations, you know, with his daughter and everything, that you got to move forward and take a different route. 11 made her own decision. And I do want to say one thing though. I definitely think that they should have had like a side character at least get took out, like Mr. Clark or, you know, Murray or somebody. But everybody was safe. They played with our feelings with 11. We're about to get into that. We get my favorite scene, possibly besides, you know, just the battle between Vecna and 11, where basically we see the kids, the main core of kids downstairs plus Max, and they are playing Dungeons and Dragons, going full circle how they did in season 1. They're playing Dungeons and Dragons. They got a new campaign going and everything, and they're kind of introducing Max to Dungeons and Dragons. I love the scene. But Mike, you know, he is the storyteller, and he ends up telling everybody's fate. And once he gets to 11, he makes a point that I thought about soon as I seen 11 get took out. It was basically that Collie has used her powers to make an illusion where it looks like 11 got took out, but instead she helped 11 sneak out and just get off the grid. And that's what Mike basically said. And he said 11 is out where the 3 waterfalls are, and they show literally how that plan could have played out, where she sneaks out the side, she's invisible, and next thing you know, she's out by these waterfalls. So it was an open ending. Basically, it's like, let the audience choose. With me, I think 11's still out there, man. I genuinely do. I just don't see her. I see her doing it, but I do see, after Kylie had that change of heart and her saying, my story is ending, but yours don't have to end this way. That's all I needed to hear. I think that she just made sure her sister got out the situation without a scratch. I think that's what that was all about. I love seeing a new generation of kids come down the stairs. Holly Wheeler, Derek playing, Dungeons and Dragons, and getting curious about it, saying that basically this can go on. This can actually continue in the future possibly. And I think that the Duffers, this is the end, but I think they always want to keep that door open just in case maybe they want to do like a reunion season where they're, the kids are older and they return back or something like that. But I definitely think it's some space in there they put there that for a reason, where they want to possibly do another one long in the future. But I think they just wanted to be safe and not kill their characters off. And I think that's why the characters didn't get took out, because they feel in their hearts that this is truly could potentially, like, probably like 5% not the end. They just want to make sure they got a safety net to fall back on. But overall, I think they covered everything. We find out that Vecna was a victim basically, and he was getting controlled by the mind flare. We got a lot of characters getting their flowers. Got Steve Harrington being a sex ed teacher, and he's being, a baseball coach. We got Nancy working for the Hero. We got Jonathan, he's working in film and everything, and Robin, the radio host, and we have Dustin being Dustin, and we have Will finding his love life, and Mike writing stories for his friends. Everything was so fitting. And I just loved how it played out. I loved how everything just connected right away, and they just threw us straight into the story. And it's probably one of my favorite episodes, to be honest. But that's pretty much what we got from Stranger Things season 5. It was everything I predicted, basically. It was everything that I thought it was going to be. Only thing that kind of was a twist to me was basically that 11, she technically didn't get took out unless you decided. It's an open ending, and I did not think they were going to have her basically have an option where we can decide what's her fate type of thing. But overall, man, this is a very bittersweet moment. Stranger Things is officially over. Season 5 was a great way to send us off, and it was a great time, and I really had a great time with Stranger Things season 5, and a lot of tears, emotional rides with this show, and just a lot of feelings involved with this show. It's my favorite show of all time, so it's gonna hit different, man. Just really just ending this off. So, man, thank you. I want to say appreciate y'all. Thank you everybody who enjoys the Stranger Things content, man. With that being said, I want y'all to hit me up on all my social medias at ILIKESCARY. Over and out.